I really, the main kind of message that I want to put across to you guys today, and it's not like some life-changing thing that's gonna like solve the problems of your life, because I'm still dealing with a lot of those too, and I'm trying to figure a lot of things out myself. So I don't have the answer to anything. All I have is a suggestion, because I'd like to think it's worked for me so far, and that is the power of saying yes. That's the power of jumping deep into something that you have no idea what's behind that door. You have no idea how deep that pool is. You have no idea what is in the darkness, but you say yes anyway, because life is boring if you don't do that. Life gets very safe. And it's kind of against our human nature, but it's also against our conditioning as students of this country, of this education system. I'm not knocking the education system at all. It has some problems, but whatever. The main thing is that the education system can't teach you how to mm, improvise, really. The education system doesn't really teach you how to leap into the darkness, because the whole thing about education system is that it's a system. Not saying that you shouldn't do well in it. You should definitely try your best to excel in it. Clearly, most of you here have, if you've ended up here. But it's also so important to jump into the things that are unknown, things that you cannot find in textbooks, things that you cannot find online, things that you cannot learn from a book. It's more about just listening to yourself, listening to every fiber of your being, and doing the very first impulse. You know, because I really believe that most people want to do more. Most people want to jump into complete unknown. Like, it's just that all of that conditioning, all of our doubts, all of our insecurities, all of those things tend to hold us back. We either think we're not good enough, we either think we are not going to do the best job at it, we either think we're not going to succeed immediately, and those are all very natural things to feel. But I am a very firm believer in ignoring all of those impulses and jumping straight on. And this afternoon is a very good example. I came here, I said yes to doing this TEDx talk. I have no script, I have no slides, I have no idea what the next sentence out of my mouth is going to be, but I have something I want to say, and I'm going to try say it. And if I don't say it well, I am very sorry. If I do, then, you know, that's another leap worth taking, and that's another leap that I am going to be grateful for tonight and tomorrow, that I took that leap. So, anyway, and also, yeah, like everyone that you're gonna hear talk today has probably taken that leap at some point, you know, has done that complete against everyone else's advice, against your own advice maybe sometimes. You just do that thing that makes zero sense, and then you find yourself in a very interesting place in life, because if it's one guarantee from living life that way, it's that it's never going to be boring. So one prime example of that I guess I can expound on a little bit is my experience with this Chinese singing competition that I did 3 years ago, that kind of made life very strange very quickly for me, but in all the best ways and all the worst ways, but still it made it very exciting. And I feel so strange just standing on this red. How do I talk to you guys? Okay, let's rewind 3 years. I took part in this competition called Sing China. Some of you may have heard of it. Some of you may have missed that boat. But at the time, I mean, right now, looking back, you know, it's a thing that happened. I was in the news for some time. It was quite a big thing. I felt like it was beyond just me. It wasn't really about me. It was more about someone from this country representing China in this competition where no one has represented Singapore before. So it felt very out of body in that sense. I didn't feel like it was about me as a human being, but more about like us as a general like culture. And that was super, super interesting, because to give you guys some context, I had no idea what the hell I was doing there, like at all. Like, very much like this talk, I said yes, and it just kept rolling and snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. The yes became sending a video audition, and then that became flying to China to record some demos, and that became filming some screen tests, and that became filming in front of the judges, and then that became airing on on like global TV, and then that became the whole craziness that rolled into the thing that is today. Um, and at the time, it really made zero sense because I spoke almost like no Chinese. I didn't know anything about Chinese music, not really, not beyond like the two or three artists that I would listen to casually. And it it was really just like um, language. Um, how do I say this without using words that are not supposed to be used on the stage? It was a very screw it kind of moment. It was a very like why not? This is something that I haven't done before. And at this point, I had been singing for about 10 years because I started back in 2005 when I was in secondary two. Um, and it had always been English. I had always written songs in English. I had only ever spoken to people in English. I had only ever communicated with all my friends in English. I had never used Chinese in my daily life at all, barely listened to Chinese music. And then suddenly I find myself in China around people that barely spoke English, around people that lived in this world of Chinese music, spoke the Chinese language, and everything was just flying past my head. And I had no idea what was going on. All I knew was just show up, stand there very much like this red circle, and sing. And because it was something that I knew I could do, it was something that I knew that I had worked on enough myself, something, even though language is a huge barrier, it's something that I knew was um, a part of me, the music, that most important part. And eventually everything kind of worked out. I guess if you know, spoiler alert, I got second place, if you haven't seen it yet. But throughout the entire journey, it was really, I can't emphasize this enough, I had no idea what was going on. It was a very scary time. It was a very um, lonely time as well because I could barely interact with anybody there. I couldn't really, I could maybe like say, oh, you know, 吃饭了吗? Oh, 昨晚睡得怎样? But other than that, like I don't know what to talk about. I don't know how to express myself. I don't know how to connect with this person beyond just small talk. So it was a very strange time in my life. It was very terrifying, but looking back, a lot of it made sense. A lot of it made sense because despite the scariness, despite the the complete and utter just like loneliness that I felt very much like an island the whole time I was there, and I think I was there for like 3 and 4 months, about there. Um, Looking back, it all made so much perfect sense because I learned more than I had ever learned before because of that saying yes to the complete unknown, saying yes to what is just out of the imagination. And the most important lesson that I learned from that was that, and that was really one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, next to probably A levels. Like A levels and then singing, no, actually, no, A levels was harder. A levels and then singing with China. No, man, I was not a great student. A levels was damn hard. Like I barely scraped by. I got like I got into JC because of DSA because I'm not very smart with the clearly, and I just scraped by. I think I got like 20 points for PSLE. Was it? No, sorry, not PSLE. O levels. I got 20 points for O levels, so I just scraped by the DSA, and then I studied my ass off for the next 2 years, and it was the first time I've ever studied in my life. Anyway, that was a whole different thing. A levels was very difficult, but this was definitely one of the hardest things I've done in my life, and one of the main takeaways that I got from it was that the hardest thing you've ever done in your life is worth doing 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times, because what else can you get but stronger? What else can you get but more experienced, more hardy, more, you know, just less scared of life? Because I think safety and security and a very set path, that's all well and good. I'm not knocking that at all. Some people really crave that stability. Some people really crave that kind of like structure. But I feel like so much in life you will regret not doing something so much more than you will regret doing something. Because even if you end up regretting doing the thing that was terrifying, even if you end up regretting doing the thing that you were unsure of, even if it just turns out to be a complete failure, at least you learned something. At least you weren't just staying on the road that was set for you, or a road that you set for yourself like ages ago. So, yeah, that's kind of my overarching message that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. That do the things that terrify you, do the things that scare you, do the things that are just not, that don't come naturally to you even. That's how you explore, that's how you learn so much more about yourself.